Here's a segment from the latest edition of St. Charles Parish Today, a monthly local talk show. Building out functional levees and wastewater systems, as well as performing yearly maintenance they require, is no small task. It takes many man-hours, partnerships with local levee districts, and a keen focus on ever-changing targets. St. Charles Parish is up to that task, but funding is needed to continue the progress we've already seen. As land sinks and our parish's residential and business areas grow, we need to be well equipped to handle infrastructure needs. Our second and final segment will focus on projects and future funding. We have with us St. Charles Parish Public Works and Wastewater Director Sam Sholey and St. Charles Parish Chief Administrative Officer Buddy Bowe. All right, thank you both for being on the show today as well. I want to start with the wastewater proposal first, since that's what Mr. St. Pierre started talking about in the last segment. What are the capital needs in the wastewater department, and how much money is available to do those improvements right now?
Well, as you know, Renee, over the last 7 years, the administration and Mr. St. Pierre, there's been approximately $10 million that has been spent on upgrade of the sewer plants, whether it be the Harmville sewer plant and the Destrehan plant. Out of that was $6.5 million loan that's being repaid by the parish. And we've reached a point now that we have major other infrastructure needs that we need. There are approximately 5 projects that are designed that need to go forward. There's another 7 projects that's related to I&I, and what that means is that when we had the rain events like we had this last week with 3 straight days of rain, the water infiltrates and overwhelms the system. And there's approximately 7 projects that that need to be continued with that. And then, of course, there's also some growth projects that need to be done in order to meet the needs of the parish for years to come. In addition to that, there's equipment that we're not able to purchase that needs to be purchased. And so we need the millage to go forward with what we've been doing for the last 7 years to upgrade the sewer systems, and also to comply with the environmental regulations that need to be complied with, both with DEQ and EPA. And so that just kind of summarizes what we need to do relative to future projects. And the only available money to the sewer department are the fees that are collected from each household every month, and there is no any other special type of funding for them other than being supplemented out of the general fund.
Right, exactly, and that's really important, because the general fund, you know, we can use those funds for many other different needs in the parish, and this is why this is so important that this goes forward.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on to levies. The current status, we kind of alluded to it in the last interview, but you're the head of the Public Works Department, so you have a bird's eye view of this whole project. So what's the current status of the levee project in St. Charles Parish? And when I say that, I mean all the levees in St. Charles Parish. Okay,
well, currently, you know, what people have heard about over the last 7 years are the 3 major permits, but the levee's being built in 3 phases, from Davis Diversion to the Parody Canal. And for the last year now, we've been constructing what we call the Willow Ridge section of the levee system. And it should be finished, we're hoping, in the next several months, depending on the weather condition and the rains. And then shortly after that, we're going forward with bidding the pump station for Willow Ridge, and we're going to go ahead with the western enclosure, where we're going to install a T-wall at the Willowdale pump station. And then our goal is to go forward with the Ellington portion of the levee system. And with that, we plan to build a portion of the earthen levee system that basically goes from where the Magnolia Ridge levee stops over towards Valencia. And then we intend to build a levee section coming from the Rap-On Park over to the Cousins pumping station. But our goal is to build the whole outer berm system, and which will give some minimal protection by building an earthen berm on the backside, but to dry that whole section up, which means in future portions of the levee, we'll actually be dealing with a section of land that's dry and not under 3 feet of water.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and my next question is, and it kind of goes back to the levee on the East Bank, and there's a big pumping station now in that levee across Bayou. How much does it cost to run that pumping station, and what does maintenance like that and operation costs mean for the funds that we have available, and why this millage is so important?
Well, on the Cross Bayou station, that's a pump station that's jointly operated between the parish and Pontchartrain Levee District. And presently, we pay the fuel costs on the station and the electrical costs. But in the future, there will be a cost share agreement that's going to have to take place relative to equipment. For example, on a 60-inch pump that's there, a replacement of the engine and the pump is $1.75 million.
Wow.
So we have, around the parish, we have 2 pumps that are 72 inches, which cost almost approximately $1.8 million to replace one of those combinations. And we have 6 60-inch and 5 54-inch pumps, and 22 48-inch pumps, would cost approximately $650,000 per piece of equipment relative to engine and pumps. So the concern that we have here is going forward with the maintenance. Over the last 7 years, we have set up a preventive maintenance program to go through and do the preventive maintenance that needs to be done, but to overhaul the equipment before it runs to failure. And I think one of the most important issues is looking at the last 3 days that we had, the last rain event, is the importance of these pump stations to be able to run successfully throughout the parish without any failures. So one of the concerns I have is how to move forward with the preventive maintenance program that we've been able to establish in the last 7 years. How do we make that happen? How do we make that work when we look at the millions and millions of dollars it takes to maintain them? And also, too, the importance of being able to maintain the systems, not only to protect the homes every day, but also to set forth the standards that need to be done for being able to maintain future flood insurance rates, because we have to certify that these pump stations are maintained and operated. Mm-hmm. So that just gives you some oversight in what's there. We're looking at perhaps as much as $6 million a year that needs to be set aside to put in some type of an account to allow for preventive maintenance, but also to have money on reserve that if we lose one of these expensive pumps, we can replace them.
Right. It's basically setting you up for the future.
Yeah, and we've transferred almost $8 million out of the Public Works Fund into the levee system. And what's going to happen going forward without this millage, we're not going to be able to transfer that amount of money, because as the maintenance of this equipment has to be done, and as we build sections of levee, we have to set aside money to do that, which means we have less money to do the preventive maintenance that needs to be done.
Right. Well, let me switch gears a little bit and talk about the impact to the resident. I know for many people who might be watching this, this is the most important thing. How much is it going to cost me? So talk a little bit about that, and then also, if you can, what this will mean for the levee system, and if that impacts how long it'll take to build.
So, Renee, the wastewater millage, which, as Parish President St. Pierre said in the previous segment, is a renewal, should mean no new cost to the taxpayer. So they're paying it now on their tax bill. They'll pay it again if this passes on May 2nd. So wastewater's no actual annual new cost to the taxpayer. However, based on our projections, we believe that by about 2017, future administrations or councils can begin to reduce the average sewer rates charged to our residents. So at that point, the millage will start paying some of the overhead costs of the wastewater department, and we can start to reduce the rates for our residents, while we also just improve services and the overall resiliency of the system with the upgrades Mr. Sholey was talking about earlier, which total about $40 million over the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. As far as the levee millage is concerned, it's a 4 mil proposition going to the voters, which would normally cost the average homeowner $40 a year. However, the administration and council this year plan on rolling back the road lighting millage by 0.4, which will reduce the new impact to 3.6 mils, or $36 a year. And as Mr. St. Pierre said, it's about less than a tank of gas. It's $3 a month. However you want to cut it up, we feel it's a reasonable, practical, and affordable request from the administration. And then that would allow, as Holly alluded to, the parish to have up to $87 million in local bonding capacity, not all at once, but over the next 10 years, to utilize as money became available, either at the federal, state, or regional level, such as the levee districts. If they had a future pump station they needed to build that cost $15 million and they needed $5 million from us, we would have the bonding capacity that would be able to do that. And if we leverage all available sources of revenue, so Go Mesa, the Restore Act, all these dollars we keep hearing about that we know are coming, we just don't know when and how much, we anticipate, if we had all money in the bank and we did this aggressively as possible, a 10 to 15 year building cycle. It's not going to happen happen overnight. Levees take a while to build, multiple phases. T-walls take longer than earthen portions, and then pump stations are a whole different animal. So about 10 to 15 years, but to the average taxpayer, we're talking a $36 new increase on their property tax bill for parish-wide East and West Bank flood protection. And in addition to the cost Mr. Sam was speaking about earlier, that Cross Bayou pump station, Mr. St. Pierre said it cost $30,000 this past rain event to fuel that station. We estimate each station on the outside of the outer levee protection system is about $80,000 to $120,000 a year in fuel costs. So when you start adding another 3 and 4 and 5 pump stations to this parish to keep our residents dry and their homes from having water in them, the costs go up exponentially. And so this millage will not only allow for that bonding capacity for construction costs, but it will give the department, specifically Mr. Sam's Public Works Department, the revenue needed to not only maintain the systems, but to pay the light bill and the fuel bill of these pump stations. And we've got cost share agreements with Pontchartrain Levee District, Lafourche Basin Levee District, CPRA, and all of those come with cost. And so if St. Charles wants a outer flood protection system that meets FEMA flood standards, this is how we get there. And we've got to have local money to bring to the table to complete the system.
Right.
And if I could just share this, over the last 7 years, we've been able to take what excess dollars that we have had to shift it to the outer levee system. And some of the excess dollars came from revenues that were generated after Katrina. So we were able to take some of those revenues and move them, but we can't do that anymore. So as we build these levee systems, then the existing dollars that Public Works has shifts to these other levee systems, West Bank and Vicinity being one of them. Our dollars shift that direction. So my concern is to be able to maintain our stations and keep them functional during these rain events. It's critical that we be able to do this, and to be able to have the uptime of the equipment to where, you know, people can be assured that their homes are not going to flood, and be assured that their pumping stations are going to work, and keep all of the internal drainage working. There's over 105 miles of major canals that we have to maintain in order to get these waters to the stations. And like I said, there are 52 pump stations. There's over 290 miles of ditches that we have to maintain in order to get the water to these stations. So we're out there, you know, during these rain events, keeping these ditches open, keeping the catch basins open, keeping these pumps fueled. And my concern is that we can continue to do that to the level that it needs to be done to maintain the reliability of the system. And that's why this millage is so important.
All right, well, this has been a really good overview. I hope a lot of folks who are watching have got a lot out of it. So thank you both for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Watch the entire episode at www.scptoday.com or on SCP TV.